only to return with his tail between his legs. Hyunsung didn't prolong the story and instead asked where he could sell the items he was carrying, hides from the red orcs. He had at least 20 pieces with him. To get one of these hides, you had to take down 2 orcs, meaning he had defeated at least 40 of them. The guards quickly directed him to the general goods store. The guards realized that they couldn't truly judge Hyunsung's strength based on his appearance. They recalled giving him some money earlier and wondered if they could take it back if they saw him again. Hyunsung entered the general goods store to sell what he had collected. The storekeeper was astonished when Hyunsung mentioned that he had hunted around 50 red orcs. Although most of the items seemed like common materials, they still helped him level up. Aside from the hides, the teeth and bones of the red orcs were in excellent condition. He was given 150 gold for everything, plus a small bonus. The 150 gold was equivalent to about $12. In less than 30 minutes of real-world time, he had earned $12. At this rate, he could earn far more than his usual salary. Hyunsung decided to focus on leveling up for the first month or two instead of saving money, though he could still make a profit even from common items. He sprinted off, fully dedicating himself to hunting. Watching him move at such speed, the guards couldn't help but find him extraordinary. One of them thought, if he's this enthusiastic about hunting red orcs, it's better for us. However, they wondered just how determined he was to hunt orcs to the point of running like that. Hyunsung began fighting the red orcs again. His first attack slashed one across the neck, and his second attack pierced its chest, defeating a red orc warrior. However, Hyunsung was starting to grow bored of this area. He had been playing for 10 hours now, and his leveling progress had slowed down. The items he was acquiring here were mostly common, and he hadn't yet approached the demonic 100 level cap. He couldn't afford to fall behind in the long run. With the number of orcs in the area dwindling, he wanted to start hunting stronger monsters. Wasting no time, Hyunsung decided to return to the village and move on to greater challenges. Hyunsung thought that there were probably boss and elite monsters in the area, but he wasn't quite strong enough to face them yet. If he wanted to fight a boss, he would need at least one attack skill. He checked his remaining ability points. To freely use skills, he would need mana points, so he allocated points to his intelligence to increase his mana points. Although he was a bit worried about his magical strength, he figured he could improve it after his next level up. Afterward, he opened the DP store. Wanting to save the best for last, which was the skill, he decided to browse through the items first. The first thing Hyunsung tried was a normal rank item worth 1 DP. He obtained a steel dagger, which could be used as a throwing knife. Next, he tried for a rare rank item, which cost 10 DP. He received a bloodstone ring that granted a 10% chance to recover 10% of his stamina upon defeating an enemy. He liked this item, as it seemed like a top-level piece of equipment. Having it so early in the game gave him a mix of excitement and nervousness. Finally, he decided to try for a unique rank item, which also cost 10 DP. He didn't like what came out. Isla's stick, which offered a 300% increase in all magic attack damage, reduced casting time by 30%, and allowed 3 dispels per day. However, for Hyunsung, staffs were entirely useless. Disappointed, he turned his attention to the heroic grade items, hoping for something more practical and useful. Next up was Iris's failed product 1, a weapon enhancer that doubled the attack power of a weapon and reduced mana consumption for weapon-related skills by 30%. Hyunsung felt underwhelmed by its bonuses, considering it was a heroic grade item. However, he thought it might serve a purpose for a specific type of quest later on. And finally, what he had been eagerly waiting for, the legendary grade item. He was speechless and glanced down. He couldn't help but wonder why he wasn't just given an item he could use right away. What's the deal with this? An egg with 3 question marks. There was no description or any information written. Everything was just question marks. This is unlucky. Misfortune just to pull a cheat skill. At least I still have the skills left, he thought. Suddenly, a red orc appeared behind him, but he simply punched it and reopened the DP store. The skills were twice as expensive as the items, but they were absolutely worth it. Items were random, but he could use any skill he managed to obtain. He started with a normal grade skill. Running. It increased his running speed by 10%. Next, he acquired a rare grade skill. Magic bullet fire. He could create small bullets using mana. 10 mana points were required to form 5 bullets. Finally, he got an attack skill. Next, he obtained a unique grade skill. Berserker's Song. For 10 seconds, he would ignore all damage. His movement speed and attack power would increase by 50%, and he could release his spirit from his weapon. Once the skill ended, he would receive 50% of the damage he avoided during those 10 seconds and lose consciousness for 5 seconds. Next came a heroic grade skill. Siren Seduction. All male animals and men within a 100-meter radius of the user would be charmed. An aggro skill? Just trash. Finally, he obtained a legendary grade skill. Reaper's Chains. The chains would target all enemies within a 30-meter radius of the user. The chains would ignore all defense abilities and deal 500% of the user's attack damage. It was an area of effect skill. At last, a useful ability. In a location where people could watch Hyunsung from within the game, a man was observing him. The man didn't seem happy with what he had seen. Inferno. The company behind the game, Idea, was located in Korea. This was the user management team at the Inferno headquarters. The team leader sighed and said that it was madness to think there was a player who could clear that. He wondered why the development team had done such a thing. The geniuses and their ideas, seriously? User management team leader, Jo Minwoo. The team leader said that they needed to add this to the special interest list. It would be pushed to the top of the list because it was a god rank. Minwoo rubbed his temples as he wondered why Hyunsung had chosen to go to Dha Town of all places when there were so many other options available. His staff member quickly answered, saying that perhaps Hyunsung knew that he could level up quickly in that place. Minwoo scolded him and asked if he thought he didn't know that. Soon after, they saw that Hyunsung was opening the DP store. Finally, he had used it. At first, they hadn't paid much attention to it. After all, no matter how good a class was, if a player lacked proper control, the class would be useless. But this player, it was impossible for him to move properly even with good stats without excellent control. He was so skilled that it wasn't surprising for him to be placed on the special interest list. Why had someone with such talent only started playing now? If possible, they wanted to mess with the probability rates of the DP store. The entire game, Idea, was controlled by artificial intelligence. Especially regarding probability rates, the AI had set them, and even the development team couldn't tamper with it. Normally, he wouldn't believe it, but the only thing they could do now was pray. Team leader Minwoo laughed as a useless unique grade item appeared. He thought his prayers had worked. Wait! Why did that appear there? The failed product of Iris. The key item that was said to be the most necessary and most important for the Iris quest. The Iris quest was now tied to that player. Minwoo told everyone to stay calm. He was sure that this was the worst possible outcome. He hoped it would have been another staff from the legendary grade. But then, a legendary item egg appeared. They didn't know what it was either. Since it was something Hyunsung couldn't use at the moment, it was good for them. Minwoo ordered them to ask the development team what this item was. Then came the selection of skills. Minwoo prayed that it would be a terrible skill. Anything, as long as it wasn't an attack skill. Minwoo chuckled at what he saw. No matter how good his control was, he knew he wouldn't be able to kill many monsters without attack skills. Now, only the legendary grade remained. Minwoo heard a shout of, "Jackpot!" Reaper's Chains. This skill possessed power that was at the higher end of legendary grade skills. It could be said to be the best AoE, area of effect, skill. With that level of control and that skill, it was almost guaranteed that he could clear the Red Orc Village. After killing the boss of the Red Orc Village, he could also uncover the hidden dungeon. Minwoo left to report this to his superiors. Once a month, one could buy legendary skills and items in the DP store. Managing the DP would become more difficult as the game progressed. Since the skill Narcolepsy didn't earn any DP, he thought he would need to sleep every now and then. Since he could only use the sleepwalking skill in the middle of hunting grounds, he could lay down a blanket and his character would automatically hunt on its own. Hyunsung really enjoyed his god rank class. Leaving his job was the best decision he ever made. When he worked at the company, he had to endure all the stress. But now, he had already saved up $80 in less than 3 hours, and he was still at a low level. If he was earning this much, his sister Huna was probably making a lot as well, considering she was at level 331. He still took pride in being her older brother, so he wanted to help her accumulate as much money as possible. Hyunsung set a goal to reach level 300 within 3 months. As Hyunsung continued on, he left to finish the boss at the Red Orc village. He couldn't see where the boss monster was. He noticed there were Red Orc shamans, 2 of them, so he knew this wouldn't be easy. If the boss appeared, even if he had to waste DP, he had to defeat it using Sabbath of the Dead. But first, he needed to deal with the minions. Hyunsung used the skill Siren's Seduction. The orcs were confused, wondering where the effect was coming from. Hyunsung was amazed by the effect. The orcs seemed to go crazy. Then, the Red Orc hero, Kurik, charged forward. Hyunsung thought this might be the boss. All the orcs charged at him at once, and Hyunsung used Reaper's chains. Moments later, all the orcs around him were wiped out, and he leveled up several times. He defeated the Red Orc hero, Kurik, and received 50 DP due to the effect of Thanatos' dream. He obtained Kurik's secret map, as well as the titles, "Will Take One Hit," and "This is why we use an AoE skill." Suddenly, he cursed under his breath. Hyunsung couldn't help but be amazed by the sheer amount of drops, but he was also struggling to figure out how to collect them all. It was the same as yesterday, his enemies weren't respawning. He wondered if it was because this hunting ground wasn't popular, or if it had something to do with the map itself. Hyunsung suspected that there might be a hidden dungeon on the map. Perhaps the enemies would start respawning once he cleared it. He spotted a path ahead, but he was puzzled as to why it was so obvious. Not only were these monsters stronger and smarter than regular ones, but they could also use skills. It was a place where elite monsters acted like regular ones, likely the hidden dungeon. Hyunsung silently prayed for a good reward and a significant number of level-ups. Hyunsung entered the hidden dungeon, the Orc Graveyard. He was the first to discover it. The experience points he would gain from clearing the dungeon would be doubled. The vengeful spirits of the Orc warriors had awakened. Since damage would be divided when attacking these bodiless spirits, unless one had specific skills, a regular attack wouldn't be able to deliver a critical strike. They weren't an ideal matchup. As for his attack skills, aside from his special move, he only had magic bullet fire. It wasn't going to be easy. Only one elite monster appeared, making it the perfect test subject. As Hyunsung had thought, the damage was halved when it wasn't a skill attack. He used magic bullet fire, hitting the vital point and delivering a critical strike. Since it was a skill attack, it was clearly a critical strike. However, because it wasn't a weapon attack, Thanatos' nightmare wouldn't activate. The knees were also considered a vital point. It seemed that all skill attacks were treated as critical strikes. Hyunsung studied the monster's skills and attack patterns. Even though fighting a ghost was frustrating, he could spot the signs when it was about to activate. Because of this, he was able to counter it easily. Hyunsung was amazed at how much experience he gained from this encounter. With around 50 such monsters in the dungeon, he figured he could gain 5 levels if he defeated it. Since Huna wanted to walk again as soon as possible, her caretaker scheduled as many rehab treatments as possible. She was happy to be able to get away when her brother was playing. She mentioned that he played like a maniac at first. The caretaker asked if it was truly enjoyable. Huna told her that she should try it too. Hyunsung mentioned that he had gotten a good class, which made Huna think that he was probably between level 10 and level 15 if it was a rare or unique character class. Huna thought that if it weren't for that accident, she might have been going to school and living a normal life like everyone else. But somehow, she had managed to meet kind people in the game, Idea. Even though she had informed her guildmates, Huna wasn't sure if her brother would join their guild. She didn't want to rush him and decided to ask once he reached level 100. Her doctor asked her if they would hunt together as siblings. Huna responded that it was still far off because she estimated that he probably hadn't even reached level 5 yet. She mentioned that skills were difficult to come by at first, so it would be hard for her brother until he reached level 30 for a new skill. The doctor noticed that Huna seemed happy because of it. Huna mentioned that she had a bet with her brother, whether or not he could reach the top 1,000 within 3 months. She laughed, thinking that it was impossible. Huna wondered what she would ask Hyunsung to buy her if she won their bet. Hyunsung had finished off all the mobs. The only ones left were the mini-boss and the named boss. If he could defeat both of them and gain the experience points from clearing them, he might easily reach level 30. He would gain a class skill upon reaching level 30. He couldn't use the Reaper's chains carelessly, as it was a special move, and magic bullet fire was meant for crowd control, making its damage weak. He was hoping for a useful skill to appear. In any case, it seemed that Idea also had a room for a mini-boss. Regardless, Hyunsung opened the door. The vengeful spirit of the orc shaman awakened. The vengeful spirit of the orc shaman called upon the vengeful spirits of the orc warriors. Hyunsung was surprised to see that the orc warriors were included in the summon. The orcs became enraged, and each of them received a buff. As a result, Hyunsung broke into a sweat, still smiling. The vengeful spirit of the orc shaman activated a buffing skill. The stats of the orc warrior's vengeful spirits increased. Hyunsung noticed that its movements were different from those on the previous floors. Although he could easily eliminate them all using the Reaper's chains, he knew he needed to save that for the boss. The orc shaman didn't just provide buffs, it could also cast attack spells. Given the difficulty of the encounter, Hyunsung wondered what item it might drop. He decided to test its skills. It also used fire and lightning. Since this could be useful in his battle with the boss, he needed to buy time and observe if there were any other attack patterns. After 5 minutes, he defeated the vengeful spirits of the orc warriors. Hyunsung noticed that the enemy's frequent use of spells had decreased and thought that it might be running out of mana. So, he quickly finished it off. It was a tough fight and took longer than he expected. His stamina was almost drained as well. There seemed to be no usable items, but he leveled up from the fight. Hyunsung thought that if he used the Reaper's chains and the Sabbath of Death on the boss, he would defeat it much faster than the orc shaman. He opened the door, and the system asked him if he wanted to proceed to the second floor of the orc tomb's basement. It was a layout where he would need to defeat another set of monsters on the second floor before heading to the boss room. User Management Room. This area is another virtual reality zone within Idea. It is necessary to manage the players within the game due to the difference in the passage of time in the game. However, this place can only be accessed by using capsules at the Inferno headquarters. They had already been inside for 5 hours, which was equivalent to 25 hours in the game. They were tired, but they couldn't do anything about it because they didn't want to complain to the higher-ups. The team leader was going crazy trying to figure out why a game released a year ago would still be concerned about a beginner. It was lucky because the higher-ups didn't seem to care, given that it was already a year late, but the real problem was the development team leader, Min Yura. It seemed that Min Yura was concerned about the player Lee Hyunsung, which was the reason behind his unique character class, the Descendant of Thanatos. This was a class unlike any other god rank class. Team leader Min Yura had created the Descendant of Thanatos class solely for the story and the world's progression. She didn't intend for it to be a class available to any player. Who would have thought that a user would spend a fortune to sleep for 10,000 hours? Min Yura was the only reason why Idea did not seek assistance or technology from other game companies. That was why the company was willing to do anything for her. They noticed that it was easy for Hyunsung to clear the hidden dungeon. He had some difficulty with the mini-boss because he didn't use the Reaper's chain. It seemed like he was testing the controls, and they noticed he wasn't increasing his stats. If this continued, he would easily clear the boss. Moreover, they guessed he would reach level 33 soon. Once he reached level 30, he would unlock that skill. Unlike other users, for a Descendant of Thanatos, reaching level 30, no matter how fast they were, would take at least a week. Yet, he managed to do it in just 1 day. After level 30, the number of experience points needed to level up would increase. At level 60, getting a new skill would be the first trial of strengthening. They called it the first trial. How long would it take for Hyunsung to complete this? The drops he was getting were also good. He had even managed to acquire some excellent items from the DP store. He got them fairly, and it was unlikely he would cause a massive change in the game just by earning rewards from clearing the boss. It was simply that he could grow stronger and faster. They had no reason to stop Hyunsung, so it was better to just watch him without thinking too much. Para Mountain. A part of the game that even the highest ranks had yet to reach. Here, a fierce battle was taking place. The Cyclops Lord, Aptolican, was defeated by a group working together. They achieved an amazing victory, causing all of their stats to increase by 10. They also received many drops. This group was the Heroes Guild. The guild had only 7 members, including Huna. Although it was a small guild, they prided themselves on being equivalent to other well-known guilds. Their guild leader, Rin, and Sunny were legendary ranks. The Old Tank, Huna, and even STI were heroic ranks. I and Kaiser were unique ranks. A small elite guild that only chose the best of the best. Although they didn't aim to be an elite guild, their strict registration requirements meant that one had to be at least a unique rank to